Hey guys, so I have been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to re-upload my Destroy the Media series, but where it does not feel stale. Because I filmed it in 2017, throughout all of 2017. I filmed 8 episodes. But as it is 2021, these are obviously all old news stories that are no longer relevant. But I really wanted to re-upload it. And you might be wondering, well, why do I want to re-upload it at all? Well, because it's one of the best series I ever made. I put a lot of work into it. It really shows just how dishonest the media is. It's basically a compilation of things that the media lied about. And I figured, how can I do this where it doesn't feel so stale? Well, I came up with a few ideas. The first thing I did is I re-edited the whole thing into one long video, but I also did some re-editing. So now you're going to be seeing the entirety of my Destroy the Media series into one long movie, basically, and you can think of it almost like a compilation. I also thought, because of Joe Biden being inaugurated today, it would actually be a good way to not necessarily show you, here's what the media is lying about, but more take it as like a memory hole kind of thing. So you watch the video, especially today, because a lot of people who voted for Joe Biden think that the media is honest. So I figured, hey, let's re-upload the video today and take it as, here's how dishonest the media was when Trump first won, as like a reminder as well as a middle finger to all of those people. So those are the things I considered when remaking and re-editing and re-uploading my Destroy the Media series. I think because of that one and only reason, it will actually make it look good now. You're about to watch it right now. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you understand why me, as well as many other intelligent people, do not trust the media. To all of you morons who do trust the media and voted for Joe Biden, if you are watching this video, I hope you are. And when you finish it, I hope you realize that you are wrong to trust the media, and therefore wrong to vote for Joe Biden, because the only reason you voted for him is because you think the media is honest. So I hope people learn something. And I hope you enjoy the series. I put so much work into this back in 2017. It's one of the best series I ever made. And enjoy Destroy the Media. I'm going to be starting a new segment on my channel where every week or 2 weeks or maybe once a month, depending on how many stories come out in that time frame, I will be giving kind of like a compilation video of every single lie and fake story that the media puts out. Anybody who watches me knows that I am sick and tired of lying media, and I've known about the lying media for my entire life. As a Michael Jackson fan, focusing on and hearing about the media making up bullshit stories is almost part of our nature. But despite the fact that I talk about lying media, I never really made it my ultimate goal to destroy the media. But I've decided that now is where it finally needs to happen. Because as I put in my latest FTR video, it seems like a revolution is happening. Today, there are actually more people in the world who are opening their eyes. There are now more people who are questioning the media than there are people who are watching mainstream media news and listening to what they have to say. More and more people are turning off their TVs, are turning off CNN, are turning off MSNBC and all that garbage, and going to YouTubers who are actually honest and tell real news and actually expose when the Huffington Post or the New York Times or the National Enquirer or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC and all these places release a bullshit story. It is time to finally take action against the media. It is time to finally take down the media. It is time for all these fake news fuck journalists to lose all of their jobs. Because the media, as I've said before, have pushed the barrier way too far. Your desire for bad publicity, thinking that it makes you more money, has gone so far that I actually believe that if you started posting positive stories or the truth, you would actually get higher ratings than bad publicity, because people would be so shocked by it that people would actually turn their TVs back on. There's a little bit of advice for you, mainstream media. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go through every single story, every single bullshit fake news story that has happened since Donald Trump won. Of course, there's been many stories long before he won, but the reason why I'm starting with this is because ever since he won, the fake news stories were pushed out violently the past 3.5 or so weeks. So we're going to start from when Trump won back on January 21st. Let us begin. Of course, our first story that we'll bring up is when Trump called CNN fake news and was telling that guy to sit down and saying he wasn't going to give him a question. I thought that was wonderful. Next story is when CNN and BuzzFeed, oh great, very, very reliable sources, created a fake pee story. They called it Golden Shower Gate about Trump having prostitutes or something pee on a bed or something like that. It was complete bullshit. The media made it up. Well, technically, the BuzzFeed got it from a different source, and later on, BuzzFeed apologized, and so did CNN. We don't accept your apology because, as journalists, it is supposed to be your job to research facts, but unfortunately, journalism is not about facts anymore. We don't accept your apology because when you first released the story, you knew it wasn't true. The next story is when the media came out saying that Donald Trump removed the Martin Luther King bust inside the White House Oval Office, and later admitted that, oh wait a minute, we just couldn't see it because somebody was standing in front of it. Later on, somebody came into the Oval Office, took a photograph of it, and posted it on Twitter. Donald Trump did not touch the Martin Luther King bust. The media reporter on Twitter made it up. But of course what they fail to realize is something that's actually true, is that Obama took the bust of Winston Churchill a few years ago, and he actually did remove that. But of course, they're going to ignore that because Obama's black. But since Donald Trump is a racist white male, let's just post and push as much bullshit as we possibly can. Then we have delusional Mark Lamont Hill on the news saying that black people are unable to be racist, and then he calls any black person who supports Trump a mediocre Negro. You fucking racist hypocrite. Then we have lunatic from The Apprentice, Summer Zervos, who was reading off a script and trying to make herself fake cry when she was accusing Donald Trump of falsely raping her. Even Summer's own cousin called her a liar, and when Trump called her a liar, which she is, she sued Donald Trump. Here's a really funny one. Lunatic Maxine Waters went on the news claiming that the Russians created the term Crooked Hillary and gave it to Trump as a way to destroy Hillary Clinton. I couldn't even make this stuff up if I wanted to. Probably one of my favorite fake news stories out of this entire month was when the media said that Trump saying the words America first was Hitler-like. Yeah, only a fucking Democrat could look at someone putting the country that they're the fucking leader of as their main priority as a bad thing. What a shock. What the fuck were you wanting for him to say, I, President Trump, am the leader of America now, but I want to put China first. Also, in that exact same report, they even said, and I quote, Trump's speech was very short, and he didn't talk about gender rights or anything that a Democrat would usually speak on. Oh, I'm sorry, should I apologize for him? Okay, to the Democrats and to the mainstream media, I'm so fucking sorry that Trump did not report on things that are unimportant. Next time, we'll do, next time we'll follow the rules of a Democrat, and we'll have Trump talk on how many genders there are, gender rights, social justice warriors, not offending people by using the word cunt, and so many other important things. But you know all those unimportant things like fucking taxes, the economy, the environment, healthcare, the actual important things, which to you are not important, I guess, we'll ignore that because, I mean, that's what Democrats do, and, you know, that's the way. Apparently, today, that's the way of being a fucking Democrat. Ignore things like education or healthcare, and let's talk about gender rights. How's that liberal arts degree going? Then there are more lunatics on Twitter who are comparing Trump becoming president to 9/11. This is stupid and offensive. It's stupid because 9/11 was caused by a past president and his administration, known as the Bush administration, but offensive because in 9/11, 2 buildings fell down and over 3,000 people fucking died. The fact that you compare this to President Trump becoming president is actually sickening. And then, of course, there's the insanity that happened at the Women's March, and I think the highlight of that was when Madonna came up on stage and said that she has thought about blowing up the White House. You fucking terrorist. And of course, only because she's a celebrity, the media goes, oh yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, not just the media, but even regular people. I had people on my Facebook who were like, oh, that's fantastic, that's wonderful, blow up the White House. You only support it because you hate Trump and Madonna's a celebrity. In every other conceivable way, the liberals would be like, oh, that's horrible, blowing something up? That's awful, you can't blow something up. Oh, it's Trump? Oh, no problem, you fucking hypocrites. Definitely one of my favorite stories is the media actually complaining, and if you watch the media reports, looking genuinely sad about the fact that Trump didn't wave to them when he boarded his fucking plane. I'm actually happy he didn't fucking wave. Yes, it is customary to wave as you get on your plane when you become president, but I'm happy he didn't because it sends a message. And that message, in case it hasn't been clear yet, is to the mainstream media, fuck you! And besides, at this point, should we really be surprised that people, both in the mainstream media and people on Twitter, are actually complaining and offended by the fact he didn't wave? But if we talk about people dying, healthcare problems, and all the important things, people are fucking silent. No, it's all about words, it's all about meaningless actions like waving, and it's all about things that aren't fucking issues, like a transgender bathroom or gender studies. Actually, it does seem like most of the things they complain about are gender related. Ugh, God. Oh, and by the way, this story actually seems oddly familiar to another fake news story back in November where the media got again upset because Trump didn't tell the media he was going out for dinner to eat steak. I swear to fucking God. This next news story is actually fucking wonderful. There was a shooting in Quebec, Canada at a mosque, and the Reuters news network actually went on Twitter to find the suspects' names. They posted 2 suspects' names, not realizing that the account that they went on was actually a Reuters parody account. But we shouldn't insult journalists. It's bad enough you don't even do your job, but when you're trying to look on a page to look up information done by somebody else, you can't even realize that the page is a parody account. God damn. Before you even do your own job, can you at least fucking plagiarize properly? Let's try that first. Yet another example of the media cutting clips to take things out of context. There was a video of a refugee saying that he loves the US is a great country, and that he likes Trump because he believes Trump will destroy ISIS. However, when the media played the clip of the refugee talking, they cut it after the refugee said that he loves America and right before he said he likes Trump. So you never hear the refugee say that he likes Trump. You can find the full clip online though, and you can hear him say it. And to ABC, MSNBC, and CNN, Fox News for cutting the clip out of context like you always fucking do, well, stick it up your fucking ass. You have lunatic Katie Tur on MSNBC making the notion that she's afraid that Trump is going to kill her co-workers because he doesn't like what they have to say about him. Okay, to the mainstream media and you, Katie, you fucking moron, he doesn't hate when people say negative things about him. He's against when you bastards make shit up, when you lie. What do you not get about this? Is your reporting on random stuff and telling a lie so similar that you can't even tell the difference anymore? I'm genuinely curious. I assure you that if Trump is going to kill anything, it's all of your careers. You then have a story that I've kind of mentioned actually in this video a few times, in how journalists shouldn't really be called journalists. We should be calling them fake news reporter, because journalists do not do their jobs anymore. But there was a lunatic on CNN actually claiming that calling a journalist a fake news reporter is basically the same thing as calling a black person the N-word because it's discrimination. Oh my god. Here's another one filled with irony. Bernie Sanders was on the news recently and he made a fake news joke. As soon as he did, all of a sudden the connection was lost and he was unable to speak to the actual news anchor. A lot of people say, oh, it's a coincidence, like he probably did lose connection. No, because this is not the first time this has happened. There's actually been many times where on the news reporter was called out for lying or whatever, and then all of a sudden, they lost connection, they couldn't hear them anymore, they're going into their earpiece like they can't fucking hear a damn thing. It's all planned. They don't like when people call them out or outsmart them or call them what they are, call them fake news, whatever, so they cut the person from their show. And by the way, watch this.
He says he knows nothing about it, hasn't seen any of these reports. Is that a problem?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was watching CNN fake news. What do you think?
You don't buy it.
That was a joke.
I know it was a joke. I'm saying you don't buy what he said, obviously.
Aaron?
Yes. I'm sorry, Senator. I'm saying you obviously don't buy what he said. You believe that he has seen these reports. I mean, to your point.
Kevin, I'm not. Are we on?
It looks like we've lost connection with Senator Sanders, so let's just try to get that back up. Do we have him back?
Oh, okay, we're getting there. Next news story is when Audi created a feminist commercial pushing the wage gap. When Audi was confronted by several people basically saying, hang on a second there, Audi, are you claiming that you don't pay your female workers the same as your male ones? Because Audi is a company, okay? When you're trying to push a wage gap narrative, you may not want to ask a company that hires men and women to do so, because otherwise they're going to be called out for it. But either way, as soon as Audi was called out, they made a statement saying, oh wait, no. We acknowledge that there are different factors as to why men make more on average, but it's not actual discrimination. But it was before people called you out, wasn't it? Then there was CNN claiming that Beyonce lost to Adele because of white supremacy. There are many stupid people even claiming that the Grammys has a history of this, which I call bullshit on, because if that was the case, then why would Michael Jackson hold the record for winning the most Grammys in one night as a black man? CNN, shut the fuck up. Next fake news story is that almost every single mainstream media outlet was calling PewDiePie a racist because of anti-Semitic posts. What they failed to report on, as usual, is that there's actually a website called Fiverr, and you can ask people to do random shit for $5. PewDiePie, as a joke, asked somebody to hold up a sign that says "Death to all Jews" as a joke. He didn't expect anybody to actually do it. But because somebody did do it, they took the entire screen cap out of context and said that PewDiePie was being anti-Semitic. And finally, just like the very first story I brought up in this video of Donald Trump calling a CNN reporter fake news, sorry about the dryer, we now have Trump doing the same thing again.
The panel is almost always exclusive anti-Trump. The good news is he doesn't have good ratings, but the panel is almost exclusive anti-Trump. And the hatred and venom coming from his mouth, the hatred coming from other people on your network. Now, I will say this. I watch it. I see it. I'm amazed by it. And I just think you'd be a lot better off. I honestly do. The public gets it, you know. Look, when I go to rallies, they turn around, they start screaming at CNN. They want to throw their placards at CNN. You know, I think you would do much better by being different. But you just take a look. Take a look at some of your shows in the morning and the evening. If a guest comes out and says something positive about me, it's brutal. Now, they'll take this news conference. I'm actually having a very good time, okay? But they'll take this news conference. Don't forget, that's the way I won. Remember, I used to give you a news conference every time I made a speech, which was like every day. Okay? No, that's how I won. I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be, Donald Trump rants and raves. I'm not ranting and raving.
This is fucking brilliant. Let's begin with a softball from Donald Trump himself, where he called the media the enemy of the American people. This is fucking lovely. Oh my god, this feels so good to even say. However, I do feel I need to correct Trump on one thing. The media is not the enemy of just the American people. The media is the enemy of the entire world. This next story comes straight out of CNN, where the fake news meme has actually been proven to have backfired against the media, because now people who come on the air are calling the media fake news directly in their face. And one guest called Don Lemon's story that he's talking about fake news, causing him to get triggered, angry, and even walk off the air. Take a look at this.
That is a fake news story. If you don't want to participate in the news stories on this network, then don't come on and participate. But don't call them fake because you don't agree with them. Go on.
Don, this is a fake news story, in my opinion, because the underlying
Paris,
assumption
thank you very much,
is
everyone.
that...
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Good night, all.
Thanks, Don.
CNN being mature as always and only reporting on what's important. Charles M. Blow getting triggered because Caleb McKinney touched him on the shoulder. Only the best from CNN. I dare you to look this one up. Next up is probably the only time the media ever told the truth. This one crazy reporter had a Freudian slip where she says, and I literally quote here, where Donald Trump can control what people think, and that's our job.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
This is brilliant, but it is nice that for the very first time probably ever the media told the truth. Our next story comes from, once again, the geniuses over at CNN who made up a lie claiming that St. Mary's Medical Center had a mortality rate that was 3 times higher than the national average, which then caused the hospital's CEO, David Carbon, to lose his job, and in retaliation he sued CNN, and rightfully so. Here's one to make you laugh your fucking head off. I'm not even gonna tell you what it is, just fucking look at this. Oh my.
You're watching CBS This Morning.
We're real news. This is what happens to the fucking mainstream media when you try and create a fake news meme to deflect real news away from you. The internet has backfired on you so much, acknowledging that the fake news is actually you, and then to deflect even more, they create this laughable title. This is hilarious, because they're trying to call themselves real news, which indirectly is only showing us more that you are in fact fake news, because you need to try and tell us we're real, we promise, please believe us. Anyway, moving on, now we have lunatic Chris Cuomo on the news saying, and I'm not joking here, that if a 12-year-old girl is uncomfortable seeing a grown man in the girl's locker room, it is the 12-year-old girl's fault and that she's just intolerant. Of course, the media going into denial and then causing more damage in the process is nothing new, and here's another time they've done exactly that. Donald Trump has been claiming that there have been riots happening in Sweden due to refugees entering the country. The media went into denial, saying that nothing is going on in Sweden, Trump's just making it up, and there are no riots there is no refugee problem there, everything in Sweden is fantastic. And then when so many riots in Sweden happened and the media could no longer deny that it wasn't actually happening, the media decided to say that the riots were in fact happening, but that they were caused because of Trump saying that they have a refugee problem. Of course, deflect the truth, and then when the truth comes out, say that it fucking happened because Donald Trump caused it by speaking the fucking truth. Mind blown. CNN once again keeping it classy and bitching on TV when things do not go their way. Sean Spicer gave a press gaggle at the White House and didn't invite CNN reporters to go there and ask questions or watch or anything. CNN then went on the news to complain about the fact that they weren't invited, that they weren't there, and they even said, you know what, I can't even repeat it. Just fucking watch what this reporter said.
This is not okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, and that's the other thing is, the White House is clearly incensed over this excellent CNN reporting about conversations between the White House Chief of Staff.
Excellent CNN reporting. When are you gonna give it up? This is... Oh... This next story comes out of Trump's recent congressional speech, where he came up with a new idea called Voice. It is meant to target crime caused by illegal immigrants. Seems like a pretty good idea, but apparently the mainstream media doesn't fucking agree. They went all over the news and all over Twitter saying that Trump's Voice idea is genocide. Nancy Pelosi was on CNN with Jake Tapper being interviewed because a Democratic congressman was insulting Kellyanne Conway because she was kneeling down on the Oval Office couch. While Jake Tapper was asking Nancy Pelosi these questions, instead of her answering them, she instead decided to deflect the information away from herself and the Democratic congressman who was insulting Kellyanne Conway, and decided to randomly start rambling and ranting about Donald Trump's locker room talk from 10 years ago. Nancy Pelosi did not answer the question. In fact, she just dodged it at every opportunity she possibly could. If you don't actually know what happened, the Democratic congressman insulted Kellyanne Conway because she was kneeling down, and he made a blowjob joke against her. According to Nancy Pelosi, when it comes to comparing a blowjob joke about somebody in the Oval Office and Donald Trump having some locker room talk 10 years ago, of course, it's only bad if you're a right-wing conservative, but if you're a Democrat, you can insult anybody as sexually explicit as you possibly want, and that's perfectly fine. Right, Nancy? Typical hypocrisy. CNN having yet another mysterious feed cutting the second somebody tells the truth that they do not like. Congressman Scott Taylor was on the news talking about Trump's travel ban. He was trying to explain how the FBI openly admitted that 1/3 of domestic terrorism investigations are on refugees, and as soon as he did this, the feed was cut. No room for the truth on CNN. If you insult a refugee by telling facts, you're getting the fuck off the air. CNN has a new documentary called Believer, which is hosted by Reza Aslan. And in the premiere episode of this documentary, something very hilarious happened. He ate what is claimed to be human brains. I must ask, is this CNN's desperation to get views back? Because if so, it's hilarious. Eating human brains! I mean... This is the mainstream media now. Stoop Dog has finally decided to stoop very low and has depicted himself killing Donald Trump in his latest music video. Of course, the lunatic liberal hypocrites are getting a great big laugh out of this, while simultaneously claiming to hate guns and killing. Let me just point out further hypocrisy in liberals that if this had been done to any black person like Obama or done from any white guy, there would be outcry. But since it's a black guy doing it to a white guy, it's okay, because according to liberals, white racism is somehow non-existent. Moving on, so recently while Donald Trump is trying to repeal Obamacare and hopefully put in something better, he had some people come on the White House feed and tell their negative stories and experiences with Obamacare, talking about rates and other issues. One woman was in fact doing this when CNN decided to, do I really need to say it, they cut the feed as soon as she started trashing Obamacare and basically telling the truth about high rates, about insurance, and all this kind of stuff. Thank you, CNN, for once again showcasing how low you can possibly stoop. Recently, I'm sure you heard about the major tax return story. Rachel Maddow overhyped this one up massively. She even put a little timer in the bottom right-hand corner of her program, saying 12 hours and I'm going to reveal Trump's tax returns. She had received the tax returns from David Johnston's mailbox, and it turns out she got massively trolled. Apparently, not only did the tax returns reveal that Trump paid a higher tax rate than both Obama and Bernie Sanders and Mitt Romney and many other politicians, but the paper that she received was from 2005 and It was the client copy, which means that Donald Trump most likely mailed the tax returns himself. And to add even more insult to injury to Rachel Maddow, it turns out that Trump actually released them himself 30 minutes before on Twitter. Because this is such an epic fail, the White House, after that, released a statement insulting Rachel Maddow because they're basically saying that they find it hilarious that the mainstream media is so desperate for news that they'll even overhype a tax return from 12 years ago. This story allegedly happened about a year ago, but CNN decided to report on it now, so it fits into this video. Sean Hannity pulled out a gun that he usually holds on him to show it to Juan Williams. CNN decided to do what they do best, exaggerate the story, and say that Sean Hannity was pulling the gun and pointing it at him, when all he was actually doing was showing him the gun. Juan Williams even came himself and said that CNN was lying. Last week, CNN aired a very important investigation into whether or not Trump is afraid of stairs. First of all, this is pathetic because when Hillary Clinton was tumbling all around the fucking floor, coughing, almost about to pass out, and even fell on her plane, the media said nothing and made excuses about it. But because they think Trump's afraid of stairs, they'll report on it. This story is so fake, I'm not even gonna give you the fucking details. Look it up yourself. Honestly, this seems like something out of The Onion. But I guess, again, this is where the mainstream media is going. CNN is having yet another case where they are claiming to be doing a live interview that is not actually live. One case is where Jake Tapper was having an interview with Ben Sasse, while other networks like C-SPAN or MSNBC were also claiming to have a live interview between Ben Sasse and Neil Gorsuch. Well, how is that possible? Another case is when Jackie Speier was shown having a live interview with two different people, one on CNN and one on MSNBC. Turns out that in both of these cases, the one that was not live was CNN. How fucking shocking is that? They can't even remove the word live from that little bar at the bottom. And you want us to call you journalists. Here's a goodie. Recently, 60 Minutes aired a little documentary trying to explain and find out what fake news is. Really? Is this what you're doing? Okay, let me explain it to you. Mainstream media. Fake news was born because you created it. I know you like to tell the whole world, no, mainstream media is good, and the fake news is everything else. They're fake news. You're trying to say you created the term, but for a good reason. No, the real reason was because you didn't like real news telling the truth, so you called real news fake news so that you can manipulate people into watching the mainstream media and calling yourself real news. But the reality is, your documentary was a failure because it didn't explain shit. It only made you look more and more fake. And everybody now knows that the real fake news is places like CNN, MSNBC, CBS, Washington fucking Post, and all these other ridiculous mainstream media outlets. Independent media is usually honest. You may want to try and call the real news fake news so people will focus more on you, but people are seeing through you now. It's over. Your idea of calling real news fake news has backfired. Okay, moving on to something funny. Recently people got angry because Bill O'Reilly said that Maxine Waters looks like James Brown, which she kind of does. Bill is apparently in trouble because supposedly it's racist to say that a black person looks like another black person. Oh my god. The liberal hypocrisy is of course out in full force because, as usual, it's only racist to say this about a black person. But if you were to say the exact same thing about a white guy, nobody would bat a fucking eye about it. A few examples of this actually are how people insult Donald Trump's hair, or how they claim that George Bush looks like a monkey. To a liberal, that's okay, because George Bush and Trump are white. But if you make fun of Maxine Waters' hair looking like James Brown, or if you insult Obama for having really big ears, that's racist because they're black. Liberals are the most fucking hypocritical people I've ever seen in my life. And finally, our last story of the day. Sean Spicer was giving a press conference where he was mocking some woman who was trying to ask him more questions about the fake conspiracy that Donald Trump has ties to Russia. As there are no ties to Russia, Sean Spicer finally got fed up and said to the woman in the audience, listen, at some points, you need to start reporting on facts and let go of bullshit like this that has already been debunked. That's what Sean Spicer said to her. The woman, in retaliation, wasn't very happy about the fact that Sean told her to do, research, so she started shaking her head at him. And then, when Sean Spicer, who was reasonably frustrated with her, asked her politely to stop shaking her head, the media then started putting out reports which literally say, and I'm not fucking joking, that it's racist and disrespectful for him to ask her to stop shaking her head. Of course, the media spun the entire thing and made it look like Sean Spicer was being disrespectful, when anybody can tell who watched the video clip that she was being disrespectful for shaking her head at him when all he was doing was explaining himself and telling her to research facts. The media even felt the need to highlight the fact that the woman in the audience was black. I'm sorry, I didn't even know racism was part of this conversation. But everybody knows that if you reverse the roles and it was a white guy in the audience shaking his head at a black guy doing the press conference, all of the articles would say, racist asshole shakes his head at a black press secretary. But because it's a black person shaking their head at a white guy, it's racist.
You call us fake news and put us down like children.
Yes, we do! In episode 3, I told you guys about an NBC reporter who got angry at Sean Spicer because he told her to do research regarding the whole Russian thing. She was being rude, she shook her head at him, he got annoyed, and of course the media called him the attacker because he's white and she's black, you know the whole deal. And of course, if you recall, Sean Spicer made a Russian salad dressing joke towards her, but of course CNN couldn't take a joke. They ended up airing an investigation, and I'm not joking here, about how Russian salad dressing was actually made in New Hampshire. Oh, Sean, you're wrong. It was a joke, you fucktards. Fake news. Okay, let's post an investigation into salad dressing. Next up, are you smart enough to think that the 72 gender thing by college liberals is insane? How about people who can pick their own age? How about people who think they can pick their own fucking race? Well, it's happened. Rachel Dolezal, not sure if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but quite frankly I don't care, a white woman is calling herself trans race and is trying to identify as a black woman. CNN's Don Lemon even had her on for an interview, and instead of doing the rational thing, trying to, tell her that transracial doesn't even exist and that you are in fact a white woman, he instead encouraged it and agreed with her. Moving on to something else that's insane, Clara Jeffrey, who is the editor-in-chief of Mother Jones magazine, was triggered by the name of the missiles used on Syria because they're called Tomahawk missiles, and she thought that was offensive to Native Americans. Next up, we have the typical media-styled edited clip to make Trump look idiotic. The clip shows Trump signing a Make America Great Again hat for a fan at the Easter egg roll. But after signing it, he threw the hat into the audience as opposed to back to the kid who handed him the hat. Or did he? If you find the real clip, which is basically just a different angle posted by NBC Nothing But Crap News, which oddly enough did not delete the video clip because it shows the truth, you can clearly see that Trump did in fact give the hat back, just at a different angle, and the kid even said thank you. If Trump really did throw the hat wrong or not give it back to the kid at all, why would the kid even say thank you? You can find the clip on YouTube. Our next story is in regards to the New York Times and CNN posting a picture on Twitter claiming that the New England Patriots didn't visit the White House after the Super Bowl because they just hate Trump oh so much. They attempted to back up this claim by showing a comparison picture from when they visited Trump and when they visited Obama. And the Obama picture shows way more people because there are people standing on the stairs behind Obama, but in the Trump picture, the stairs are empty. So to any feeble-minded person, they would think that, oh my god, the team isn't there visiting Trump. Turns out, though, that they were there. But instead of standing on the stairs behind him, like they did with Obama, they were standing on the lawn in front, and the camera only gets the top of their heads. You can actually see it in the picture. You can see the top of people's heads right in front. people's heads up in front in the Trump picture, and with Obama, there are no heads in the front, but there are people on the stairs. There was an equal amount of people, but of course, oh my god, they didn't visit. Now, instead of the public, people like me exposing this kind of fake news, it gets even more sweet. Because it wasn't people like me, it was the New England Patriots themselves who called out the New York Times and CNN and called it fake news in response to the tweeted picture. Well done. Now on to something amazingly epic. Trump held a rally recently in Pennsylvania to celebrate his 100 days. And during the rally, the audience started chanting, "CNN sucks." Oh my god, it was like the church of fake news. It was fantastic. Oh, but it gets better. To add insult to injury, that night, Trump was actually supposed to attend a White House Correspondents' Dinner. Several media outlets even showed up at the White House for this Correspondents' Dinner, only to find that Trump didn't show up and was in Pennsylvania for the rally instead. Oh my god, that is the greatest media troll ever. This next one I'm just gonna show you. It's another epic troll, but you gotta see it yourself. Trump was on CBS's Face the Nation. Honestly, I gotta say this is, maybe the 5th or 6th time he's trolled the media? Take a look.
And I think actually I've been very consistent. It's very funny when the fake media goes out, which we call the mainstream media, which sometimes I must say is you. But when the
you mean me personally, or
your show? I love your show. I call it Deface the Nation. But your show is sometimes not exactly correct.
You can get over it. It's so amazing. Oh my god. Anyway, moving on. During a speech at the NRA, Trump called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. This is Trump's nickname for her because despite the fact that Elizabeth Warren is not Native American, she tries to call herself one. But of course, the mainstream media couldn't even take that joke either, and they decided to report on the fact that Trump called her Pocahontas. MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell spent an entire segment on his show trying to convince his audience that Trump is racist for saying this because Pocahontas is not just a Disney character, but she is in fact a real person. Oh god, no. Thank you, Lawrence, for this hard-hitting story. And by the way, Bill Maher also called her Pocahontas. But yet the media is somehow okay with that. Oh, right. Because Bill Maher is liberal. Sorry. I forgot. I apologize. Next up is one of the most disgusting pieces of media manipulation, I think, the past month. Trump was in a phone interview where he basically said that he wished that the Civil War could have been avoided, and he believes that it could have been avoided, or at least dealt with better, if Andrew Jackson had been president at the time. Now, God forbid Trump says something that would avoid war. I mean, it's terrible of him. CNN didn't like it, so what CNN went and did was they changed his words, of course. During the phone call, you can clearly hear Trump say the words, "Why did there have to be a civil war?" Now, what Trump meant was kind of like a, damn, it really sucks, why did it have to happen? But CNN felt that they had to change his words to be like, why was there a civil war? As if he's asking, why was there one? Why did it happen? I don't understand. But he wasn't saying it as in the, I don't understand, please tell me why there was a civil war. He was saying it like, damn, it really sucks, why did there have to be one? It was said like that. And what made it disgusting is that the CNN reported on it immediately after showing the real voice clip unedited. You can clearly hear him say, why did there have to be a civil war? And then the media goes on, CNN, immediately after going, look how dumb Trump is, not understanding American history. Look at him asking why there was a civil war. He wasn't asking you dumb shits. It was said with different context. Facebook has also gotten into the war against real news. They posted this disgusting image up on your newsfeed. You've probably seen it all over Facebook. Please help us spot fake news. Yeah, we are gonna help you spot fake news. You know how we're doing it? By exposing the mainstream media, not the fake news as you want it to be. You want to help YouTube and the mainstream media promote this fake news bullshit? Well, fuck you. Our war is against the fake news mainstream media, not independent people or YouTubers like myself. We are the ones promoting real news. We are the ones exposing fake news. To both YouTube and Facebook promoting this kind of bullshit, fuck you. Our next story involves Rosie O'Donnell. Trump went back to a tweet that she made about 6 months ago where Rosie O'Donnell tweeted, "Fire Comey." Trump retweeted her tweet and said, "Look, Rosie, finally something we can agree on." Yes, this tweet is actually very funny, but that's not what involves the media. What involves the media is that CBS actually opened up one of their broadcasts with a full segment talking about how Trump retweeted Rosie. This is not news. Oh my god, are you really that upset about a little tweet? By the way, speaking of important news, CNN actually put out a report on how Trump likes to eat 2 scoops of ice cream with his White House dinners. No, I'm not fucking joking. And CNN wonders why we call them fake news. Tim Allen's recent TV show, Last Man Standing, was a very traditional sitcom reminiscent of what you'd see in the 90s, like Married with Children, Seinfeld, stuff like that. It's a very, very funny show. But ABC actually canceled the show. The show was very funny, it didn't show liberal bias, it kind of showed both sides, it stars a very conservative family. But ABC canceled it simply because it is a conservative, traditional TV show, and SJWs don't like that anymore, because SJWs need to have everything their way. A TV show can't even have traditional family comedy anymore. Now before you come at me and saying, oh, but ABC claimed it was because of low ratings. Well, that's why we call it fake news. ABC actually lied. Last Man Standing was actually the second highest rated sitcom on their network. They did not cancel it because of ratings. They canceled it because SJWs couldn't handle the fact that the show had comedy in which mocks dumb SJW liberal propaganda. Ever since I heard about this story, I've actually been watching Last Man Standing. I'm still on season 1, but I think the show is absolutely hilarious, and it does remind me of traditional old-fashioned sitcoms. I urge you, if you're watching this video, to please watch Last Man Standing on Netflix. The show was canceled after its 6th season, but the show is very funny. Try and support it by watching the first 6 seasons. Anyway, moving on. Back on to fake news. Check out this lunatic CNN host getting angry and screaming her head off because a Navy SEAL guy says that I'm not just gonna believe sources that are anonymous. I need facts. I mean, God forbid in 2017 somebody says that I need facts, but just look at this friggin' host meltdown. This is hilarious.
You're basing all these allegations off of 1 or maybe 2 sources, which CNN,
sources, not just CNN
reports. 2 former officials knowledgeable of the situation confirmed to CNN that the main points of the story. 2 former officials. Tell you what, come out, name those people, then we'll have something to talk about.
1, we protect sources. 2, it's not just CNN. It's Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, ABC,
yeah, but who
NBC.
are the sources?
Carl.
Who are the sources? Oh, because they're hiding behind this anonymity.
Oh,
and that's what we're seeing.
Please, do not even start with me that you're just going to attack sources.
Okay, so
that is ridiculous.
So are you saying McMaster is lying?
I'm not saying McMaster is lying.
Well, he didn't really answer the question.
He didn't answer the question.
He said nothing inappropriate.
He said, no, that's his opinion.
That would be,
but that's his opinion.
You cannot say, you cannot attack, do not attack the stellar reporters of CNN who have their sources and would protect their sources.
Stellar reporters of CNN that I am going to attack right now and say, guess what? I don't believe them because they're staying anonymous.
Stellar reporting! You're an idiot. Moving on to more fake news by who else? CNN. CNN recently posted a graph to show which other networks were negative and positive towards Trump in his first 100 days. The graph that they showed, this one right here, actually indicates that Fox News was the only network to be mostly positive towards Trump. Now, it doesn't actually matter which ones are positive and negative as long as what they're saying are facts. But the real problem here is that CNN was in fact lying by using the wrong graph. The graph that they actually used was just for Trump's fitness into office. However, the graph pictured here is the one that's actually showing the positivity and negativity towards Trump. You can clearly see that the actual numbers for Fox News are pretty balanced, 48 to 52. Yes, Fox News was in fact mostly negative, 52%, but you can clearly see that actually they were pretty balanced. 48 to 52 is actually pretty even. It's almost straight down the middle. I'm guessing CNN lied about this because they didn't like the fact that out of all the networks, Fox was the most fair and balanced, despite the fact that CNN likes to pretend that they are the ones who are in fact fair and balanced. Well, we know, CNN, that you are actually the most unfair. Fuck you and your lying bullshit. Seth Rich. What can I possibly say about Seth Rich? Well, let me just tell you a quick opinion of my own. Seth Rich was a DNC investigator who mysteriously died. How did he die? Well, according to the media, he died in the middle of a robbery. A robbery which has no witnesses, no suspects, and has simply never been solved. What we do know about his death, though, is that shortly before he died, he actually spoke to Julian Assange. Julian Assange, of course, is the guy who owns WikiLeaks and who has exposed many people, including Hillary Clinton and her pedo manager, John Podesta, or John Pedo-sta. Many people, including myself, are conspiring that possibly he was murdered by Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, considering the fact that he spoke to Julian Assange shortly before he died. What bothers me about the media is that not only did they most likely lie about how he died, the robbery, but they're also simply not reporting on him much at all to begin with. Talk about Seth Rich. We want the truth about how he died. Next up, check out this epic video of Bernie Sanders absolutely ripping this CNN host for asking him stupid questions. She starts off by asking a typically unrelated question about if Bernie Sanders is going to run in 4 years' time. And then when Bernie Sanders rips her for asking such a stupid question that's 4 years away, she then goes, "Oh, we're not afraid of the hard questions," and then proceeds to ask him the same question again. Watch.
You clearly galvanized and inspired millions of people in 2016. Many of them are waiting for a signal from you about your plans for 2020. Should they wait around for you, or should they shop for another candidate?
I don't agree with that. And you have heard me both say this before. No, millions of people are not worried. We just had an election. Yeah. You guys never end. You're probably wondering who's going to be running in 2030. How old are your kids? Are they going to be running in, 2094?
Do you want to tell us that?
Be. All right. But you know what? And this is a criticism that I have in the media, and you have heard me both say it. Talk about the issues. Why is it that the United States is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people? Do you think it is moral that so few have so much and so many have so little? It is easy to ask whether Kasich is running or Sanders is running. That's easy stuff. It is harder to talk about oligarchy in America. It is harder to talk about trade policies. The American people, I beg to differ, they're not worried about whether Kasich or Sanders is going to run.
They're not worried about...
They're worried whether they're going to get decent pay for their jobs.
Bernie, my wife's worried about it. She doesn't want to go through all this again.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Well, maybe
just for the record, we're not afraid of hard. We're not afraid of hard. We're not afraid of hard questions and issues, and we are talking about that, and we will continue to talk about that. But I have to say that you're not going to want to hear this. Maybe both of you won't. Maybe you will. That online, apparently, our viewers are saying that they're loving this, and some people are wondering if maybe there's a joint ticket in your future.
Disgusting Kathy Griffin, who works for CNN on New Year's Eve, decided to post a video and picture of herself holding up a beheaded fake Trump head covered in blood, essentially depicting herself as an ISIS terrorist. This act was considered so disgusting that even CNN host Jake Tapper condemned it. However, Jake Tapper also had on 3 panelists on his show to discuss it, and all 3 of these lunatics said that they had a hard time caring about what their coworker, Kathy Griffin, did. Even Chelsea Clinton said that it was vile and wrong. CNN did fire Kathy Griffin, but it took them a full 24 hours. They began by saying that they need to evaluate what they're going to do, but then when a bunch of advertisers and companies started pulling themselves away from both CNN and Kathy Griffin, that is when CNN decided to finally fire her. It would be illogical to think that CNN actually has morality and fired her based on that. They fired her because they saw the backlash and all of the companies pulling away from them. Just as fake as CNN, Kathy Griffin also made an apology herself. She only apologized because she saw the reaction towards what she did. Her words, by the way. More Comey news. This next story actually shows just how desperate CNN has become to put out any story they can. CNN did an interview with James Comey's dad about what he thinks James Comey thinks about Trump. Oh, but it gets worse. CNN was also called up by some random guy named Benjamin Witz, who was claiming to be a friend of James Comey, and just because of this, they did an interview with him too. Oh, but the Comey news doesn't end there. Both the Washington Post and the New York Times posted an article complaining about Trump's language, of course, towards Comey, saying that Trump calling James Comey a wacko or a nutjob is offensive. Merriam-Webster themselves even made a claim saying that nutjob was the top trending and most searched up word on their website that particular night. Liberals don't even know what the word nutjob means. We can safely assume that the majority of liberals who actually searched up what the word nutjob is are those highly intelligent college and university kids. Next up, we have CNN changing their words because of their legendary hypocrisy. Back in April 4th, CNN posted an article saying that everybody should have a chance at paid leave. But then on May 30th, just because Trump talked positively about paid leave, CNN then posted an article talking about how paid leave can hurt women. You fucking hypocrites, changing your word just because of something Trump said. Assholes. And finally, our last story, one last shot at CNN. CNN staged a fake protesting video of Muslims protesting against terrorism. The video was posted to Twitter, and you can actually see the people behind the camera positioned. Go over here, okay, we need you perfect for the shot, okay, move over. And you can even hear some guy in the background laughing and saying this is embarrassing. They staged a fake protest with a couple of Muslims. This is disgusting and probably one of the lowest points for CNN. Journalists' brains show a lower than average level of executive functioning, according to a new study, which was done by a neuroscientist, by the way, which means that CNN and other media outlets are going to have a hard time denying this one. Which means they have a below average ability to regulate their emotions, suppress bias, solve complex problems, switch between tasks, and show creative and flexible thinking. Well, that explains an awful lot.
The media for years has gotten away with manufacturing consent. People are fed up with the emptiness and the artifice that pervades our media. Well, I'll tell you something. Change is coming, whether CNN likes it or not.
First off, it's probably one of the most useless and pathetic pieces of mainstream media garbage. The Hill, among other media outlets, actually put out a report on how Trump didn't tweet during James Comey's testimony back in June. Wow, thank you for that hard-hitting article. Speaking of useless articles and Trump tweets, check out this article posted by CNN about how Trump hasn't tweeted in a really long time. Are you people actually serious? At this point, I feel like I need to ask if you're actually serious. CNN's Jim Acosta went on air to complain because during a press conference, Trump made him sit at the back of the room away from other media outlets, most of which were independent. What's even funnier is that during the broadcast where he was complaining, he actually said that he was going to continue to ask hard questions despite the fact that Trump is being mean to him. Oh, you mean like how you think Trump is afraid of stairs? Or how he likes 2 scoops of ice cream? Yeah, you definitely report on important things and ask hard questions. Or, oh yeah, that's right, what about hard questions like this?
We're not afraid of hard questions and issues.
Yes, you are. Jeffrey Toobin, who is the chief legal analyst for CNN, actually went on air to say that Trump is under investigation. This, of course, is despite the fact that James Comey himself admitted 3 times that he is not investigating Trump, and then even a 4th time during the testimony. And yet CNN still persists with this conspiracy and lie. What exactly does CNN know, or what do they think they know, that James Comey himself, the ex-head of the FBI, does not know? Oh yeah, nothing but bullshit. Next up is a lunatic liberal named Holly O'Reilly, who is trying to sue Trump because Trump blocked her on Twitter. This insane woman who hates Trump, obviously, yet for some reason wants him to unblock her. I really don't know why she even cares at this point. But Holly actually claims that Trump blocking her violates her First Amendment right. Now you're probably wondering how exactly this story relates to the media. Well, the Washington Post actually gave this woman a fucking column in their paper so she could write about it. Are you fucking kidding me? So there's a play done every year called Shakespeare in the Park, but this year they put a modern twist on Julius Caesar, where Trump is the one who was killed. The play is hated so much and condemned so hard that even some liberals hate it. But not CNN. Fareed Zakaria on CNN actually praised the play, encouraged people to go see it, and called it a masterpiece. You fucking maniac. Here's another failed headline. I don't usually talk about the BBC very much because they're in the UK, although I probably should because they lie just as much, if not more, than American and Canadian media. They posted an article with the headline, 3 Palestinians killed after deadly shooting in Jerusalem. To anyone not doing research into the article and just reading the headline, because we call those people headline readers, this article would appear that it's 3 poor Palestinians being killed, which is what the media wants you to think. However, if you did proper research outside of the bias of the article, you would see that the 3 people who were killed, the 3 Palestinians, were actually terrorists, and the reason they died is because they were killed by police. Oh, and by the way, the Palestinians actually killed a cop, but the media wouldn't tell you that. The BBC received a lot of backlash for this lie and this manipulative headline, and they ended up deleting the article. But still, fuck you, BBC. Steve Scalise is one of the congressmen who was shot during the congressional baseball practice game by a lunatic Bernie Sanders supporter. But there's some interesting evidence here, actually. Looking into his Twitter page, it appeared that on May 25th, 2 weeks before he was shot, he actually announced he was going to go after human trafficking.
While many of us would like to believe that this issue isn't something that affects us, the sad truth is that human trafficking is a real problem plaguing each and every community here in the United States. Enough is enough. This week, the House took strong actions to stand up for the victims of human trafficking, passing tough bills to provide them protection and to target child predators. Let's work together to get these bills signed into law.
Could John Podesta actually be involved? It's very interesting timing. In fact, this does relate to John Podesta. Back in 2015, we can see one of John Podesta's emails where somebody from the Democratic side is sending John Podesta an email to try and get Steve to step down, because apparently he also announced human trafficking investigations back then as well in 2015. And people asked Podesta to get Steve to step down. And then when he announced it again on May 25th, 2017, he shot just 2 weeks later. Very interesting. Oh yeah, and speaking of this shooting, fuck the media. Since this shooting was against Republicans and not Democrats, the media barely even touched on it. No, I mean literally. CNN only reported on this for a couple of minutes. We know for a fact that if this shooting was by a Republican and towards a Democrat, the media would have been all over it, calling Republicans the same bullshit they always do. Oh, they're evil and they're murderous and they just love Trump, so they kill everyone who's anti-Trump, blah blah blah. Fuck you. This article here by the Huffington Post, written by Jeremy Davies, actually says that Father's Day should be abolished. On the same merit, the New York Times actually posted an article saying that father-daughter dance needs to end. Why? Because apparently it's outdated. Whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. But I suppose it's because in modern day, fathers are not really men anymore, so it's not really a father-daughter dance or something. Fuck off. Moving right along, CNN actually claimed that only Democrats were praying before the congressional charity baseball game. However, this is another lie by CNN, of course, because actually both sides, Democrats and Republicans, were in fact praying. CNN then received backlash, of course, for their lie, and then they deleted the tweet. CNN's moron Jim Acosta actually claimed through a tweet as well that Trump did not visit Steve Scalise in the hospital. Jim Acosta did eventually delete the tweet due to backlash, but he did not issue an apology. However, later on, CNN did post an article on their website claiming that Trump did in fact visit Steve Scalise, most likely in response to Jim Acosta's lie. So this really awesome but poor guy off of Reddit made a little video as a joke showing Trump doing some wrestling, but the CNN logo wasn't posed on the guy's face, so it makes it look like Trump is actually wrestling and beating down CNN. CNN, of course, just as you would expect, went on air to bitch about this because they can't take a joke from a literally 10-second video. Now that we know that CNN is actually hurt by this clip and do not want people to see it, that only gives me more encouragement to show you the clip. So take a look. Anyway, the point is, CNN actually tracked down the guy from Reddit and threatened him into apologizing, which he actually did. CNN then went further into stupidity by threatening to dox this poor guy and literally saying, and I quote, CNN reserves right to publish his identity. Which they actually don't, by the way. This threat literally violates the law and the Constitution. And because of this, I actually encourage the Reddit user to sue CNN. But even if he doesn't, what's so great about the internet is that they don't take bullshit. This one little video got CNN so fired up that pretty much everyone all over the internet, I've already seen like 15 of them, people are actually making other clips where people are being beaten up or punched or whatever with CNN's logo on top of their face. So one video gets made, CNN bitches about it, and what does the internet do? Do they run and hide? Fuck that. Fuck CNN. Fuck the media. Tons of people, well over 100 by now, and I'm sure there's gonna be a ton more, people make more videos. CNN, I fucking dare you to try and sue every single person who makes one of these little joke videos. I dare you to try and dox and sue every single person who hurts your damn feelings. Go ahead, try and sue and dox the entire internet. You know what's gonna happen? All of us as a collective are gonna sue you for fucking treason. Try it. And finally, one last epic nail into CNN's coffin. Project Veritas' God Emperor James O'Keefe sent in one of his journalists to talk to John Bonifield, who is a senior producer at CNN. He's worked there for 15 years. During this hidden camera recording, John Bonifield actually admitted that the Russia conspiracy is bullshit and that CNN has no evidence, despite the fact that they talk about the Russia conspiracy 95% of the time. He further admitted that the only reason they do talk about Russia so much is because it brings in more ratings. It's all business and it's all done for money. John Bonifield even did a kind of a laugh/smirk when he talked about the media's lack in ethics. Furthermore, into that, Project Veritas then went undercover to talk to CNN's Van Jones, who admitted that the entire Russia conspiracy is a, quote, nothing burger. After CNN and Van Jones realized that the conversation was being recorded, Van Jones then wrote an article on CNN.com basically slandering James O'Keefe and all Republicans, even calling James O'Keefe a con artist. Yeah, because he's the con artist, totally not you, CNN. He even lied in the article because he quoted what he said, but he didn't quote it properly. The quote reads, "It's just a big nothing burger, there's nothing you can do." That's where the quote begins and ends. He then follows this up in the article by saying, "When I called it a nothing burger, I just meant for this week," which doesn't make any sense, Van. This entire statement is nothing more than damage control. I do understand why some people might believe Van's excuse, but the way he said it was way too matter of fact. If you have any knowledge in body language and the way people talk, you would see it as well. Take a look at the clip again. The Veritas journalist even said, "Really?" to Van Jones, to which Van Jones replied, "Yeah," which, by the way, is a part of the quote that Van Jones left out of the article. He didn't quote the part where he said "really" and "yeah," because that shows verification. That's why Van didn't include it in his damage control article. If Van Jones really did mean just for that week, then he should have said so when the Veritas journalist said "really." Instead of saying "yeah," it should have been something like, "Really? Well, yeah, just for this week though." Something like that. But no, his response was just simply "yeah," because that's the fact. Yes! It has already been proven that CNN holds on to this whole Russia thing because it brings them viewers and therefore money. This has been proven. So any excuse by Van Jones or anybody else who works at CNN is nothing more than a lie and damage control. Nothing more. Washington Post idiot Paul Farhi actually posted an article as well in response to Project Veritas' video on John Bonifield. In the article, Paul Farhi mentions that James O'Keefe did not mention that John Bonifield is from Atlanta, even though James did say that John Bonifield is from Atlanta. James, the epic man he is, actually called Paul on the phone and asked him to clarify this mistake in his article. In response, Paul ended up posting a tweet saying that he's not going to retract the mistake. So he acknowledges that a mistake was made in his article and he's just going to leave it there. This is how journalists really work. Even if they know there's a mistake, they just go, fuck it. Then there was an email sent by a random citizen on Twitter to Paul asking Paul again to fix the Atlanta error. And what does Paul tell this citizen in response? He tells them to drop dead. Are you fucking kidding me? Paul, it's one little statement about Atlanta. You would have looked way better if you had just deleted that one word from the article and verified what you said. But instead, you get exposed by James O'Keefe. You tell a random person to drop dead because you're so against telling something that's actually true. This is how desperate the Washington Post and every other news outlet is to lie. They'll even lie about something so small. This Atlanta thing is like the smallest thing ever. It's like one word based on John's location. Who even cares? But no, you just have to lie. And you're so desperate to that you'll make yourself look like an idiot and a jackass by telling somebody to drop dead. Seriously, fuck you, Paul.
Every dishonest television network, newspaper, and social media company is now on notice. You're being watched. We're coming after you. And while the whole broken, rotten media machine may not come tumbling down, maybe they'll wake up.
Our first story comes from Jim Acosta, a man who really needs to get fired. When Trump was back in Poland, which I think it was like in July, Trump recently said at one of the press conferences, "I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Acosta went on New Day, saying that he doesn't know where Trump got the 3 or 4 intelligence agencies from, and called Trump fake news for saying that. But it turned out the 3 was the correct number, and even the New York Times admitted this. So as usual, Jim Acosta is fucking up. Our next story is again something useless and trivial, but then again, that should be the mainstream media's slogan. Several media outlets showed an edited video that depicts the president of Poland's wife not shaking Trump's hand. Several independent media outlets and even the president of Poland himself tweeted out the full video showing that his wife did in fact shake Trump's hand. Here we go again. Another useless lie. Trump and Putin recently had a meeting in a giant room at the G20 summit with tons of other people, but CNN felt the need to lament and lie over and over, saying that the meeting is secret. They went on air saying stuff like, "Oh, it's a top secret meeting," and nobody knew what they were talking about. But what makes it even better is that Chris Cillizza was on CNN saying, and I quote, "Nobody said the meeting was secret. Nobody said they were trying to hide it." What the fuck are you talking about? Your network said they were. So basically you lied and then you debunked yourself using a lie. Next up, so here's MSNBC's Katie Tur making herself look like an idiot again. There were 6 girls as part of an Afghan robotics team who almost didn't get into the country because their visas were denied. Katie blamed the travel ban on this, which is insane because Afghanistan isn't on the travel ban. She then even admits right after that Trump waived their visa process in order to help them, but blames Trump at the same time. Katie, what the fuck? Continuing on, Donald Trump met with French President Emmanuel Macron, and they had a rather long handshake. It was about 29 seconds, and how the fuck do I know this? Because CNN's Chris Cillizza literally analyzed the video and wrote about it. I'm dead serious. So more misleading headlines. A recent poll was done that shows that more people are willing to vote for Trump again than they did back in May. His approval rating went up 6% to a grand total of 88 from 82. However, the headline spun it to make it look negative. This was a headline by Reuters and Salon, which reads, 1 in 8 people who voted for Trump having second thoughts. Reuters IPSOS poll. Of course, it's trying to make it seem like they're having second thoughts like, oh, I don't want to vote for Trump. But the second thoughts claim is true, but their manipulation is even truer. It's to make it look like they're having second thoughts in a bad way, but really the second thoughts are positive. So next we have the lie spread by J.K. Rowling. This does not involve the media, but she lied, so fuck her. There was a video where Trump was giving a speech about victims of Obamacare, and then meeting with some of the people. One of which was a disabled boy. J.K. Rowling claims that Trump didn't shake the boy's hand. The video clip cut out the part where Trump gave the boy attention, because he did give the boy attention. In fact, if you watch the full video, you can see that one of the first things Trump did was not only shake the boy's hand, but even bent down and talked to him for a bit. This stupidity was even shared by Chelsea Clinton, who later on deleted the tweet but didn't apologize for it. So recently Trump shared another one of those CNN memes. This one was CNN's logo getting hit by a train, a literal Trump train. And of course, people are freaking out. Instead of freaking out about the real issues that were going on at the time, like Charlottesville, in fact, come to think about it, people are actually comparing this meme to what happened in Charlottesville. Of course. People are making the comparison about how dare Trump share this meme after someone was just hit by a car in Charlottesville. As if this is somehow fucking related. It's just a meme of a train hitting CNN. This has nothing to do with Charlottesville. Shut up, you fucking pussies. Speaking of Trump and Charlottesville, here's another thing the media is freaking out over instead of dealing with the real issues. What a surprise. Trump called out, and I quote, all sides. More than once, too. Yet the media and the radical left repeatedly say that Trump is not calling out racist conservatives, even though he did. Anderson Cooper and Van Jones went on air to say that Trump's words were untrue, despite Trump literally say he condemns actions on all sides. So what's untrue, CNN? Van Jones was even on air crying, but I know why. Calling out all sides also means that you're calling out black people. And since this is 2017, if you even mention black people in a negative way, you're automatically attacking them. Of course, that's right. Only white people are to blame for everything, right? In fact, even if Trump did say something wrong regarding the violence in Charlottesville, I feel the need to point out that CNN is more upset about Trump's words than they are about the girl who was murdered by that lunatic's car. CNN, as usual, getting their priorities straight. Katie Tur also went on air to say that Trump never disavowed David Duke or white nationalists, which again, he did. He also disavowed David Duke while he was still campaigning, and Katie Tur claims to have forgotten, which I think is a lie. Oh, but there's more on Charlottesville. Remember, the media has to dig into it as much as possible since it finally involves white people. CNN actually had on a panel of 6 random people to ask them what they thought about the way Trump spoke about it, when he said that we condemn all sides. And all 6 people said they had no issue with what Trump said. The CNN reporter who was hosting it was in shock and devastated that they had brains. The CNN host asked the panel additional questions in hopes that some of them would turn against Trump. So they were all asked about Antifa as well. And all of them were against Antifa and against left-wing violence. The entire panel was mocking the CNN host. Looks like that plan backfired, didn't it, CNN? Speaking of Charlottesville, of course, the media decided to spin this several different ways, as usual, but here's a recent one. There was a recent attack in Barcelona. Of course, more fucking attacks, but CNN's idiot Wolf Blitzer decided to make the incorrect claim that the attack in Barcelona is tied to the attack in Charlottesville, saying, well, they both must be by white nationalists even though it was caused by ISIS. CNN's idiot Jeffrey Toobin went on air after Trump's rally in Phoenix and was saying he fears for his journalists' co-workers, thinking that Trump supporters will be violent against them. Don't worry, you morons. Just because the media is violent and loves inciting hate doesn't mean we do. Next up. I don't have much to say about Hurricane Harvey or the recent ones like Hurricane Irma because not much of it relates to the media, but I did want to mention the hurricanes because it's horrible and I hope people are finding a way to stay safe. I actually have friends in Florida as well and I really hope you're staying safe, please. But when Hurricane Harvey was going on, although other media outlets were talking about it because, you know, it's a massive and deadly storm, CNN, however, was still talking about Trump and only had a small screen in the corner. You know how, like, the media, the news outlets, they have, like, that line at the bottom, and they have, like, different, like, sections on the screen of, like, what's going on different channels or whatever? They had that, and all they had was a little square in the corner showing the hurricane, while the main screen was just talking about Trump, of course. Fucking idiots. You can't even stop talking about Trump during a fucking disaster. Okay, and I have one more thing left to show you. This is so fucking insane. This article actually came out last year, but I'm showing it to you now because the article actually resurfaced due to people sharing it on Twitter. And it's about hurricanes, so of course with Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, people are now sharing it. But the article is fucking insane. Look it up if you'd like, you'll have the title on the screen here. And this is an article by CNN. Let's begin right off the bat with this screenshot. This is a progression from when CNN claimed Trump was insane for making his wiretapped claim. But look at the articles. The third one finally admits it, and CNN offered no retraction. Next up, I want you guys to check out this idiotic CNN host getting triggered just because Clay Travis said the word boobs. And instead of covering the news that they're actually talking about, she's fixated on him saying the word boobs. Only the best.
I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only 2 things completely. The First Amendment and boobs. And so once they made the decision that they were not going to allow a conservative non-sports related commentary, they couldn't do it.
Hold on.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman anchoring the show. Did you say, what did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and BWBS?
Boobs. For somebody to come on CNN and to say something like the only thing I believe in a discussion about something
I'm still there too, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. B-O-O-Z-E or B-O-O-B-S? Because as a woman, I'm
As in boobs. I believe completely in the First Amendment and in boobs. Those are the only two things I believe 100% in this country.
I mean, to have
I'm done.
That even,
I'm sorry.
To have her
I'm
anatomy brought up, to have anyone's anatomy brought up in this
I'm
conversation.
done. This is done.
completely
This is
derails it.
conversation over. Yanking mics. Bye. See ya.
Back in mid-September, Trump retweeted a gif of Trump hitting a golf ball, which hits Hillary in the back, causing her to fall over. The gif, of course, using the clip where she fell over on the plane. CNN, as usual, decided to complain about this gif, and even put it as their top story. Apparently not learning from the wrestling gifs. Oh yeah, ABC and MSNBC also wasted a segment on their show talking about this one little gif. Absolutely ridiculous. You won't believe this one. Back in mid-September, Fareed Zakaria pretended to have a fake interview with Kim Jong-un. Seriously, YouTube it. It's Fareed talking and asking questions to himself as if he was asking Kim Jong-un and he was answering his own questions. I'm dead serious. Go on YouTube, type in Fareed Zakaria fake interview with Kim Jong-un, and you won't believe your eyes. During an NBC broadcast of The Last World with Lawrence O'Donnell, this lunatic had a complete meltdown. He was going on about how Trump didn't mention a police officer sometime back in September. But this is while Lawrence is screaming and swearing like a lunatic. He's on air, and he's looking at the camera because apparently there's someone hammering somewhere in the studio, and he's like, stop the fucking hammering! He's like swearing like a maniac. Again, just YouTube like Lawrence O'Donnell freak out on MSNBC. It was insane, and it was hilarious too. Check out these two articles. The first one, as you can see, CNN author says NFL ratings are down. And then just a few days after Trump talked about how the NFL ratings were down, the same author makes another article that is literally titled, "No Trump, the NFL ratings are not down." So the author changed the article just because Trump tweeted about it. Next up, remember when the NFL players were taking a knee to go against Trump? Well, here's an insane article. Some lunatic who writes for the Huffington Post decided to write that standing for the US national anthem means you're standing for white supremacy. Of course. One thing I love about this article and the entire stupidity that happened in regards to the NFL kneeling thing is that most NFL players are black, so all your white supremacy conspiracies are just wrong and stupid anyway. Next up, Roy Moore is an idiot who was trying to run for Senate in Alabama. Roy is an idiot because he's religious, yes. However, today we are going after Chuck Todd from MSNBC, because Chuck said that Roy doesn't believe in the Constitution because Roy believes in God. Now, I don't believe in God, especially the traditional way the church perceives it, which means I do obviously disagree with Roy. However, we still can't deny that it does say right in the Declaration of Independence that our rights are given by a creator, aka God. So Chuck Todd is wrong, even though Roy Moore is also an idiot. This guy can't even read the Constitution. Not that I agree with it talking about, God being the creator in the Constitution, but nevertheless, it still says it in there. A female CBS executive was fired from CBS, which I'm happy about. At least CBS is taking action, which is good. But just make sure to let it sink in that this woman was an executive at CBS. Anyway, she was fired because she wrote on her Facebook page, her personal Facebook, that she had no sympathy for the victims of the Vegas shooting because most of those victims were white Republicans. Yes, she actually wrote this on her Facebook. Continuing on. Newsweek posted an article where they stated that white men commit more mass shootings than any other group. Now, although this is technically true, they are still being biased and not looking at the stats. Black people make up only approximately 10% of the population in the US, yet commit almost half of all the shootings. Therefore, the ratio is way off. And I'd be scared to see the ratio of shootings if the black and white population was 50-50. More from Newsweek. They posted another article in response to the shooting back in late September, where a black man shot up a church in Tennessee. Newsweek's article tried to say that anyone who says that black shootings are underreported are just conspiracy theorists, even though it's a blatant, proven fact that the majority of black shootings are, in fact, overlooked. So this next story is so stupid I'm not even going to go into detail. I advise you, if you don't get cancer just for me telling you the title, to go search it up for yourself. CNN actually put out a report about how they think that Russia used Pokemon Go to meddle in the election. I'm not making this up. If you're still watching, because some of you may be on the floor gasping for air, go on YouTube and type in Pokemon Go Russia Connection CNN, if you can stomach it. Early November, Trump went to Japan and met up with the Prime Minister there. Trump and the Prime Minister were feeding the fish in a pond, but CNN decided to report that Trump put the fish's lives in danger because he threw the entire container of food into the pond at once, when in reality, he was just copying what the Prime Minister did, which was dump the entire container in. The clip was even edited on purpose to zoom in on Trump's face, thus cutting out what the Japanese Prime Minister was doing, to make it look like Trump was the only one dumping in the food. However, if you watch the clip without the zoom effect, you can see the Japanese Prime Minister, he dumps his box, Trump looks over, and then Trump dumps his box. And just the fact that this was even a story on CNN is not surprising anymore. So recently, in my video about how white racism is on the rise, I mentioned how flyers were put up around several different cities saying it's okay to be white. Now, of course, according to SJWs in the left-wing media, being white is not okay. Therefore, several media outlets actually reported this awful flyer, and even calling it a crisis. Yes, telling white people that their skin color is okay is a crisis. If that is not an indication of white racism, then I really don't even know what is. So here's another article. You want me to read the title to you? Okay. Trump pauses during remarks to sip water. This is real. This is not a fake article. This is not The Onion. This really is CBS News talking about how Trump interrupted his speech to drink water. This is really a report. Alright, let's continue going. This one's fucking great, and it's another one that I strongly urge you to YouTube after you've done watching my video. MSNBC's Morning Joe actually pre-recorded an episode before the American Thanksgiving, but they spoke on the show as if it was after Thanksgiving. Morning Joe host Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, by just a little heads up, Mika is actually the same woman who a while ago said that it's the media's job to control what people think. That's Mika. They were actually on air talking about their Thanksgiving meals, despite the fact that it was filmed before Thanksgiving, but aired after Thanksgiving. I don't even know why MSNBC did this, but I urge you to YouTube the actual video. It's fake and extremely cringy, but oddly funny. Moving right along, recently Trump was at an event honoring the Navajo Code Talker veterans, and he made a joke against Elizabeth Warren, calling her, as I'm sure you've heard in the past, Pocahontas. Because Elizabeth Warren is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, but is psychotic, so she wants to identify as Native American. The media went insane, calling Trump, once again, racist for insulting Elizabeth Warren. But I just want to attempt to knock some logic into Elizabeth Warren and the mainstream media. The real racism is Elizabeth Warren pretending to be something she isn't. She is the one insulting Native Americans, not Trump. Let's get into some magical news. ESPN recently laid off over 150 employees and lost over 500,000 subscribers due to pushing political propaganda instead of actually showing sports. So that's great. In very similar news, BuzzFeed laid off over 100 of its employees since BuzzFeed has been going under for a while and claims to want to change their strategy. I don't know what the fuck that means. They've always had the same strategy of stealing off people and then creating clickbait, but okay. Hey, remember a while ago when CNN actually reported on how Trump likes to eat 2 scoops of ice cream? Did you think that was dumb enough? Well, here's a new thing. They now reported on the fact that Trump enjoys drinking Diet Coke. Again, go ahead and YouTube it, type in Donald Trump, CNN, Diet Coke, and you'll see that CNN actually had somebody on air to talk about how he drinks a lot of it, and it could be bad for his health. Really? Drinking Coke is bad for you? Thank you, CNN, for that hard-hitting report. And then finally, we're going to end off about how there was something about WikiLeaks revealing some emails that involved Russia or something. CNN took it and claimed that it proves that there was collusion, even though the emails were actually shown on September 14th when they were already public. But CNN claimed it was September 4th before they were public, and they had to issue a retraction for getting the date wrong. Dumb, stupid motherfuckers. Again, you can look that one up if you want. But the main thing about CNN getting this date wrong is not even that the date was wrong, but rather about how this guy came on CNN. Take a look at this, and he is sitting here claiming that it's because of CNN getting things wrong that we should trust them. Yes, he says we should trust CNN because they make mistakes and fuck up. Here, watch it.
Why should, given these mistakes, why should people trust the media? And I would say the mistakes are precisely the reason that people should trust the media. Look, astronomers make mistakes all the time because science is a process of discovery of truth. Astrologers never make mistakes, or at least they never own up to them, because what they're offering is a closed system of ideology and propaganda. Faced with wrongdoing circled by lies, the process of piercing the lies to uncover the truth about the wrongdoing is inherently not only difficult but adversarial, because the people who are trying to find the truth are operating against bad faith actors engaged in concealment. So they get partial pieces of the truth. In the process, there are going to be overshoots and undershoots. That Bloomberg Reuters story you mentioned about Deutsche Bank.
Right.
Donald Trump holds most of his debt through Trump-related entities, not personally. So we don't know exactly what Deutsche Bank was subpoenaed to release, but it is not exactly wrong to say that when you get a Trump-related entity, you're getting something about Trump. Nonetheless, error of emphasis. But it's the process of bringing truth to light.
And then finally, let's talk about Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. The last time I talked about him was in Destroy the Media 6, so we're going back about 5 months now. I love what Project Veritas is doing. I think James O'Keefe is a great man who is basically risking his life to make the videos he's been making. He's been putting out reports and investigations on the New York Times as well as the Washington Post. I urge you strongly to watch his reports and just go to his channel and check out what he's been doing. Project Veritas, although the channel name is Veritas Visuals, he has done amazing work, and it's this kind of thing that makes me feel like we may actually get somewhere. The media has been lying less than they used to, which is great, although they still are, which is why we need to make videos like this. And James O'Keefe has done amazing investigative work, and his entire team. One day I kind of wish that James O'Keefe would see my videos and hire me on, because I would do great investigative work for him, and I think I'd be a great asset to his company. But anyway, I strongly urge you guys to check him out and check out his videos. He's done great, as I said, he's done great investigative work, most recently against the New York Times and the Washington Post. I want you guys to know that even if the media is lying less, they are still lying. And no matter what they claim or what they do, they are the enemy of the people. Not just the American people, but the people of the entire world. Their corruption and lies goes way beyond what you see on CNN. They control everything. It is the global elites and the mainstream media that attempts to control everything that you see on TV, everything you learn, and everything you hear. Their job is not to inform you on worldwide events. Their job is to manipulate your brain into believing what they want you to believe. Never, ever think anything differently than that. They are not on your side. You could think they are, they can try and convince you of that, but please don't ever lose sight of what the mainstream media and the global elites truly are. They are not on your side. They are on the side of printing anything and everything as long as it gets them attention and money. They don't care what they actually talk about, and they don't care of what the viewers perceive their words as. As long as they're getting money in their account, they will lie anytime, anywhere, and about anyone. And never, ever lose sight of that. And people like me and James O'Keefe will always be here to remind you of what truly goes on in the world.
The media wants me to kneel down and apologize. I will not. We will keep pushing. We will keep fighting. We will expose the truth, because there's no one else doing it. No one else can do it. No one has the will to do it. They're out for blood, but we'll not surrender. We will never stop. Stay tuned.